Full lights, start sound, camera, action. BabuKishan's Spotlight.
Started collecting them in the 80s, and I went to Nanaimo to pick up this radio. That was a beautiful radio. It still works. Hi, my name is Shushma Datt. I was born in East Africa many moons ago in a family that was very loving, the second child, and my parents were two very fantastic people. Everybody says lovely things about their parents, but I think my parents were really amazing because they loved each other very much and they loved their children very much. I was one of six, the first oldest daughter, the second child. So usually second child either has it very easy or has it very difficult. And in my case, I think I had it very easy because I had an older brother and then a couple of cousins who lived with us, and they were boys as well. So growing up, it was very easy for me to be like boys. So I could play with my brothers, cricket and things like that. But as a child, I think I was very pampered too. Very soon I had a younger brother who was born, and then my sister. And the youngest were my two siblings, twins, boy and a girl. So a brother and a sister. So total we were 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Life in Africa was, beautiful, amazing, good family, fantastic area to live in, loving parents, and as you grow up. So as a young person, my older brother was very studious. I wasn't. Never interested in education, never interested in studying, but more masti and all that. So when I was in grade 7, my father told me that if I did not pass grade 7, that that was it for me. He would have me stay at home. Needless to say, I didn't want to stay at home, so I studied really hard, passed my grade 7. But the love affair with being a naughty child continued. One fine day, we were doing a recording for our school. I studied in Arya Samaj school in Nairobi, and the story of Shri Dayanand was being depicted in a radio play. I wasn't getting any part, so I talked to my dad, and my dad, his best friend was the principal of the school, so he said, I think she will pay more attention to education if you encourage her. So I did get one part to play, and that was young Dayanand saying, look, there is a mouse eating laddu. So I practiced that line morning, evening, night, every day. And we went to the radio station. That was the very first time I got to go into a radio station, Kenya Broadcasting. And when it came to my turn, as a young child, you look at the microphones, you look at the reel-to-reel recording, huge. And I felt, I was in an amazing place. So when it came to my turn to say the line, I messed up the line. And I was very disappointed. So they made me say the line 2-3 times. When I came home, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I thought, I got one chance and I messed it up. But when the play came on radio, there was no mistake. My line was beautifully said because they made me say it 2-3 times. And I thought to myself, what an amazing world. You can make mistakes and erase them. I want to be in this world. And I think that was the very first time I thought about being a broadcaster. So, not that I did any education in that. I was 16 years old and it was time for our senior Cambridge, and Dad was, as usual, disappointed in my educational advancement. So here I am, 16 years old, and Dad shows me a picture of a young guy who didn't look very good. He said, if you don't pass senior Cambridge, you're going to get married to this guy because we're going to India. And I had nightmares after that, married to that guy. No, I don't want to get married. I want to be a broadcaster. So I really studied hard, and that particular year, I stood first in everything in my school. So my dad said to me, if you want to do something in life, you'd be able to do it. We all went to India because the situation, a political situation in East Africa wasn't that great. So we moved everything to India. Couldn't stay there very long. I did get admission in Lady Shri Ram College, graduated from there. And in 3 years, we went to England because parents did not want to live in India. We couldn't live in Africa. So the next best place was England. I got a job with the BBC just by mistake. So getting a job with BBC was just a fluke. As children of British subjects, we were Kenyan citizens, so I had to go to England and study. So I joined a polytechnic to learn typing in shorthand. And then when that course finished, I thought I'm an Indian, I should go to the Indian High Commission, they'd give me a job. So I went to Indian High Commission looking for a job, and that was at Holborn in London. I was given a test and I miserably failed, and the guy said, why don't you practice and then come back in a month? And right next to the Indian High Commission in London is the BBC's overseas service, Bush House. So I went in there, picked an application form, filled it up and gave it to them. Within a week I got a letter from them, because when I was writing my application form, I wrote all the languages I speak: English, Hindi, Punjabi, Gujarati, Swahili. And my typing speeds, by mistake, I wrote them in the column of Hindi, and they were looking for a Hindi typist. So the interview was quite amazing, and they were talking about Hindi does not have a standard typewriter, and they didn't use the word Hindi at all. And then the interviewer asked me if I would like to have a look at the typewriter, and I thought it was either manual or electric. But I looked at the typewriter, it was a Hindi typewriter, and I did remember her saying that Hindi doesn't have standard keyboard. So I put in a paper in there, and of course I didn't know how to type Hindi. Quite disappointed that I wasn't a Hindi typist, but needless to say, I got a job with them because they said, if you can learn typing, how long will it take you? I said, a couple of weeks. But I worked with the BBC for 7 years, and in my last year I worked with them as a program operations assistant, which is studio manager. I worked with people like Himanshu Kumar Bhaduri, Ratnakar Bhartiya, Ali Hassan, Purushottam Pahwa, Mark Tully, who was my boss. He was the one who got me into broadcasting. And I had mentors like Ali Hassan and Purushottam Pahwa, Krishan Gold, who taught me how to broadcast. Unfortunately, my father passed away in England, and my mother at that time was quite interested in getting me married because I was the oldest daughter. And a marriage proposal came to her from a family whose son lived here in Canada. So my mother was very happy that it's a decent family, my daughter will go into a nice place. So mine was an arranged marriage. My marriage took place in London. I finished my course. I came to Canada in 1972. And at that time, the South Asian community here was about 80,000, no programming for them. But a brand new radio station was just starting up, 1470 CJVB. And I got to work with them, and I worked with them for 7 years and started Hindi programming and Punjabi programming for a community. But in about 4 years' time, I started the first television program for our community. And there was a time when I started my own company in 1984 that we had close to about 11 hours of programming a week produced right from the studio here. Life in Canada has been very rewarding, very hard, but this is the place that I call home. It's very difficult for anybody to understand what sort of a life a single parent who is not Sikh would lead here in Vancouver. I never knew the difference between Hindus and Sikhs and Muslims when I lived in Africa. I never found that difference in India, lived there for 3 years. Never found the difference in England, lived there for 7 years. But Canada taught me, especially Vancouver, that there is a difference between a Hindu and a Sikh. I knew the difference between Hindus and Muslims, but not Hindus and Sikhs. It was quite difficult for me to take sides. I come from a background where as a broadcaster you take a hypothetical oath to be unbiased, and as a journalist you have to look at all the sides. You can't just take one side and promote that. I think that has been the biggest hurdle for me in my life, because I would not take anybody's side. I would give the story the way it is. Needless to say that always backfired on me. As a businesswoman, it hurt me financially. As a person, it hurt me because I would not make many friends. So I would just stay within myself, do my work, and that's it. But to be in business and to be successful, you have to have a belief in your own self. You have to believe whatever you're doing is right. And if you're on the right path, there is nobody who can push you back. Yes, maybe you will not be a very rich person. Maybe you will not get farther ahead in finances or make a huge big house. But you can wake up in the morning and look at the mirror and say, yeah, I like you. To be successful in business, you need the support of somebody. And my biggest support is my son. My son who is the brains behind our radio station. My son who looks after 1200 AM, which is rebranded as Spice Radio. I think for a mother to work with her own son in a business can be rewarding and can be difficult as well. As a mother, I have taken my son everywhere. I remember when he was born, I had to take him to work with me. I used to do a night shift at CHQM, and I would pack his bag and take him with me, and he would have his night milk, and then he would go to sleep and I would do the night shift. So my relationship with my son has been very, very close. And when he got married, his wife, my daughter-in-law, is like my own daughter. So for me to be successful in my business, I give majority of that success and the credit of that to my son, who has been with me 100%. To be able to bring programming that is different and not sensational for the community that is an amazing community here in Vancouver. It's a difficult job, but we've tried to be different. We've tried to be impartial. We've tried to bring knowledge, entertainment together as one package for our community. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't had the support of my son, Sudhir. So in 1987, I started the first radio station outside of India which broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But for that, you had to buy a radio to listen to it. So Rim Jim was born on November 1st, 1987. And I ran that till 2003. And at that point, I went to the commission and I said, there is competition from across border, which is 1600 and 1550. I have been a Canadian broadcaster. I need to have a license to broadcast to the community without them buying a radio. So we made an application in 2003, and in 2005, we got the license for 1200 AM. And at that time, the commission also gave a license to an FM station, which had a very narrow broadcast area, but an FM license. So not only did we get a license, but we also got a competitor right away with us. So it was my son's idea to do a program that would be different from whatever was being done before. Rim Jim to continue as is. There were 1600, there was 1500, and then an FM station. So 4 radio stations in competition with us. So we started a station for the younger generation, which had music and talking to the people, like my son, who understands the language but doesn't speak it. Exactly the same way all the second generation children who understand the language but don't speak it, for them 1200 AM started, named as RJ 1200. And in 2014, we rebranded it as Spice Radio. So the mandate of the radio station is to reach the entire community through Rim Jim and Spice Radio and bring quality entertainment and information, and not take people back to Punjab and tell them what's happening in Punjab, what is Badal doing, but what Harper is doing and what Christy Clark is doing in our own place. I always believe that when you leave your homeland, you are a traitor to that country, because you could not live there and work there and fight the battles of that country. So when you come out of that country to another country, you cannot fight the battles of the country you've left, because then you are a traitor to the country that you've adopted. So when you live here, you be a part of this country. You take all the benefits of this country. Why not give it back to the country as well? So that is basically the motto of 1200 AM. That has been the motto for me all my life. Whether I've lived in Kenya or in India or in England or in Canada, I am true to the country that I live in. It gives me a lot of pleasure when people come up to me and say they've been watching me since they were a little kid. So I'm addressing all of you, saying that when I was a little kid, my father said to me, choose a profession that you would go to work without feeling, oh, I have to go to work today, but raring to go to work. Our father and mother also taught us to dream. So dreaming is very important. If I hadn't dreamed of becoming a broadcaster, I would have never become a broadcaster. So dreaming is important. It is very important to also, I know that we live in a country which doesn't have the entire Indian traditions that we follow, but there are some traditions, some Indian traditions which are fantastic. Parents always want the best for their children, so do listen to them. You want to do whatever you want to do, but always understand that your parents want the best for you, and be a contributing member of the family, the community, and the world. And it is important for you to be that. And I think for me, I've always felt that to be a member of the entire world globally gives you way more peace of mind and satisfaction than anything else. Born as a Hindu in a Hindu family where parents were very particular about learning all kinds of religion, it was very important for my parents to teach us about Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam, Christianity. So our father used to sit us all down and read passages from all the holy books, and then ask us questions. What was the similarity that you found in all the religions? So for me, all religions are equal. I do believe that religion is something that binds us together, keeps us grounded. For me, it has always been important to meditate and keep my mind in focus. And the greatest person that I looked up to was my mother, who was an amazing, amazing person. And I know that everybody says their parents are amazing. My mother truly was an amazing person and grounded us, made us believe that whatever we are doing from the goodness of our heart. And I think spirituality assists you to be a good person for yourself and for others as well.
Full lights, start sound, camera, action. BabuKishan's